What sense does this make? All this corruption leads to the top of the government right now. All of this. It's Joe Biden, a multimillionaire who has spent his entire life in politics. He's never had a private sector job. He's been there for... Joe Biden is so old that he served in the Senate with people who were born in the 1800s. It's like around the time the light bulb was invented. He allegedly sold his position in a scheme to self-enrich himself. Republicans are somehow resistant to hold this accountable. They won't even launch an inquiry for impeachment for the sitting president. Joining me now to discuss, former federal prosecutor, former Georgia representative, one of the House managers during President Bill Clinton's impeachment trial, Bob Barr. Sir, appreciate you being here.
Certainly, Carl. Good to be with you. And I was really enjoying listening to your narrative there, because there's not a single thing that you said about the federal government that is incorrect.
I appreciate that, sir. So let's get to this. I'm not calling for the impeachment of Joe Biden because I don't have all the facts right now. And I think as moral and legal citizens, it is important to have all this. But do you think it's worth, as having been through this process under Bill Clinton, it is worth ramping up this investigation potentially into an inquiry for impeachment?
It absolutely is. And that's the whole purpose of an inquiry of impeachment, as I introduced in the House back in 1997 against Bill Clinton. At that time, in November of 1997, we didn't have the Monica Lewinsky story. We didn't have the Starr report, but we had some very strong circumstantial evidence that the Clinton administration had engaged in improper, illegal activities with regard to Red China and labor unions and so forth. So I did what the Constitution and our laws allow, and that is introduce an inquiry of impeachment that simply says there may be enough evidence here to start an official impeachment. We don't know yet, but let's at least get the issue before the Judiciary Committee. We clearly are at that same point now with the current president.
Well, sir, given your contacts, but also given that you have two eyes and ears, do you believe right now that the alleged Biden bribery tapes actually exist? Is the FBI stalling, and why?
I do think that they're stalling. As a matter of fact, it isn't thinking they're stalling. They obviously and clearly are stalling. And that falls squarely on Christopher Wray, in whom I've been very disappointed the way he's been circling the wagons, not for the American people, but for the FBI. But there is enough evidence, I think, at this point that there was very likely money that changed hands between the Biden family, if not Biden himself, and a foreign government, likely to be the Ukraine government. There's more smoke here. I think that the Republicans eventually will bring it out, but I do think that it is very much time to file an inquiry of impeachment as a responsible first step.
Yeah, seems rational. We're just trying to figure out what's going on. Now, Texas Senator Ted Cruz, we played a little bit of him earlier, but he went on to lay into the FBI for shielding of the president. Look at this.
The FBI has right now an unlimited hubris that you believe you are unaccountable. You don't believe you're accountable to the United States Congress, and you don't believe you're accountable to the American people. And you are doing damage.
I mean, look, I happen to agree with him. How did they get this far along, and how have we allowed it to happen?
We've allowed it to happen because we've allowed it to happen. Now, that may sound like a circular argument, but at any point in time between the last 25 or 30 years and now, the Congress of the United States could have stepped in and done something about it by, one, not constantly expanding the power of the FBI, which they've done over the years, but by placing limitations on the money that goes to the FBI and also holding real oversight.
Right.
In other words, what they need to do is they need to bring the director of the FBI back to the Congress over and over and over again and force him to finally answer these questions.
Yeah.
He should do it. He hasn't done it. The deputy director clearly didn't do it, but Congress can do it. The House in particular, with the power of the purse strings, they haven't done it so far. I do hope that they will.
Yeah. Well, Congressman, real quick before I let you go, do you feel like this actually might have metastasized to something, or do you think that it's just going to be one of these things that just go left unaccounted for?
I'm actually fairly optimistic, Carl. I think that when you have the director and the deputy director of the FBI very clearly stonewalling, and when there very clearly is strong evidence, circumstantial at this point, that there was bribery between a foreign government and the vice president of the United States, I think the American people are going to start to really demand that the House of Representatives do something.
Yeah, well, certainly when election season comes around, we'll see what they do. Bob Barr, appreciate you being here, sir, very much.
My pleasure, Carl.
All right. Well, early